We are live. Right, okay, so this is question 3. Molly is trying to book a holiday cottage for a short holiday. You could call it a molliday. The activities involved, their durations in minutes, and immediate predecessors are listed in the table. There, that's the stuff she has to do. Draw an activity network using activity on ARC to represent the project. Okay, we've only learnt to do activity on ARC. They put that in because there is another way of doing critical path analysis that some of the other boards use, that is activity on node. Some ways I think it's better. But we have to do activity on ARC, so let's do that. I want to be able to see the table as I'm doing it. Right, I know what we're doing. This would be, this might not work. Hang on. Right, so if we do that, okay. That's not going to work, is it? So we've got to try and draw it. Remember this is one of those things where you may make a couple of attempts. You were given a big space on your answer booklet. A few people did make a couple of attempts. If you want extra paper, then get extra paper. Make sure that it's a decent size when you end up with your diagram, because if it's too small, then you struggle to do the rest of the work with it. But so we're starting. We have a start node, and now we have activity A and B don't depend on that. So let's draw A and B. I'll sort these out later on. What depends? So C depends just on B, but D depends on A and C, and E depends just on C. So we've got quite a bit of sorting out to go with this. So what should we do? Let's draw. I may have to do this again because that's one of the things that we always have to do with this. Let's draw C here and see what we're going to do later. So D requires A and C, and so does G. That requires A and C. So I think I'm going to need, it's a bit odd putting it in quite that way, but we're going to need a dummy, aren't we? Because we're going to have A and C, that is both D and G, and C, that requires, E requires just C. So we'll put E there. I'll work out where I'm going with the rest of this in a minute. So we're putting D and G from here. What else do we need? E, we've put in. F requires D to have happened. And H requires E, F and G. Well, it looks like E, F and G are coming to this point. This is a horrible diagram. But there we've got H requiring them, and that's the end of the project. Now that is not the neatest way of drawing that. It's got what we needed in there. I may be thinking in an exam, that is my rough sketch. I'm doing it right, I'm making sure I'm right at the top of the big box that I've got. So now I'm going to draw a nicely set out diagram underneath it. Do I want to do it again, nicely set out? Is it worth doing? Yeah, we'll do another one, then we'll put the boxes in. So I still can't see what I'm doing with it. It's a dilemma, isn't it? So there we go, we've got, we have some straight lines going on. We've got A and B, and we've got C, we've got our dummy that was there. This is going to be too small, but we'll cope. So this is activity A, this is activity B, activity C, there's the dummy activity. We've got how can we do it? Let's put them there. We've got that would be D, that would be F, that can be G, that can be E. That looks alright, doesn't it? And there's H. So So there we have, what did I just say? D, F, G, E, and H. I think it's worth making the point, you don't need to do a second diagram. That first rough one that I did would be good enough. I'm going to put some numbers on here, because I need the numbers on here to help me later on. So that one was 10, B was 5, C was 20, D is 15, F is 5, G is 15, E is 25, H is 30. Okay, now amongst the important things that go on here, actually it's worth taking the time to get this right, and crucially is getting the right number of dummies. Because if you have more dummy activities than you need, then it's going to make the next stage of doing the forward and backward scan through it much more complicated, and you're likely to make a mistake if you have extra dummies in there and things won't match up. Apart from anything else, the 2 marks for drawing this network, the method mark is for getting the correct structure with things labelled. The accuracy mark was for having no unnecessary dummies. So it's a big deal, is the extra dummies thing. Right, it then said, carry out a forward pass and a backward pass through the activity network, showing the early event time and the late event time at each vertex of your network. So, we need our boxes for this. Sorry. I'm just going to roughly draw them in. This is the bit where you start to find that you did need to draw a diagram that was of decent size so that you had room to fit all of these boxes in. Otherwise you find yourself struggling to do anything coherent with anything that you've got. So the forward scan, we have 0 there. We're putting the earliest time we can. We can't put that one in yet because A is involved in that loop as well. So this was that number 5 then? So that was 5 there. That didn't depend on anything else. C, we arrive at this vertex once C is finished, so that's after 25. So the earliest time we can arrive at this vertex is after both A and C are completed. So the earliest time we can get there is 25 as well. This vertex, the earliest time we can get there is once D and everything preceding that's finished, so that would be 40. 25 add the 15. This vertex here, we've got 40 plus 5, or 25 plus 15. That would be 40 as well, wouldn't it? Or 25 plus 25, so that one must be 50. We can't arrive there until all the preceding activities have happened. So the earliest time is 50. So that makes that 80 at the end of our diagram. And now we can do the backward scan as well. So we're going to put 80 in that box. 8 take 30 is 50. That one there, 50 take away the 5, we could put 45 in there. As long as F is finished by 50 we're okay, and so it can start, the latest attempt can start is 45. Where else are we going? We'll have to do this box next. So 45 take 15, or 50 take 15, either of those will give us, well, the lowest of those is 30. So the latest time we can leave that one is at 30. Down here next, we've got 50 take 25, which is 25, or 30 take 0, which is 30, so we choose the smaller, which is 25. 25 take away 20 is 5, and 5 take 5 is 0. So that's got that bit all done. And they gave a decent number of marks there, didn't they? 3 marks for doing that. 1 for the forward pass, with at most 1 independent error. 1 for the backward pass, and 1 for both passes being completely correct. Then, the question says, state the minimum project completion time assuming that Molly can share the tasks out with her friends, and list the critical activities. So, critical activities are ones that we can't afford any delay on whatsoever. If we look through this network, we can see that activity B has to start at 0, can't delay at all, it has to be finished by 5, and it lasts 5, that's critical. C is critical as well. What else have we got? E, earliest start time is 25, latest finish time is 50, and it lasts that time, so that is critical as well. None of the others are critical. G can start at 25, and so it would be finished by 40, but it has to be finished by 50, so we've got a bit of flexibility in there. So there we go. H is the other critical one, so we're going to list our critical activities, because that's what it asked us to do. B, C, E, H, and the total time is 80. I don't think we needed to give a unit, but it's minutes that we were talking about. There we are. Then the question said, now I think it gets a bit more complicated now. Each activity requires one person, and activities cannot be shared between people. Molly must do activities A, B, F and H herself. This is an interesting thing that I'm aware that some of you missed that little bit at the end of that line. Some of you spent a long time coming up with a schedule, and it worked and it was fine, but it didn't involve Molly doing A, B, F and H, and so it didn't get the marks. Simple as that. You have to follow instructions. Draw up a schedule to show how she and 2 friends can complete the project in the minimum completion time. So we have to get this done by the 80 that we've claimed is the minimum time. So, how am I going to see all of this now? Let's go back to this display and do this and see if we can work this one through. So the question has just said that she is doing which one's she doing? A, B, F and H. A, B, F and H. I'm just going to write a little note to remind myself of that. A, B, F and H. Have to be done by Molly. So let's schedule some of these things. If this activity is going to complete on time, then the critical activities have to happen in the right places. We've got no flexibility. So B has to be the first thing that happens. It has to be, because it's critical. So if she has to do B, and it has to be first, we have to put B in that box, because that takes the first 5 minutes of what happens. So if you didn't put B in the first box, instantly things have gone wrong for you. She also has to do A. Now A has to be done by 30. If she's doing A, then C must be done by somebody else, mustn't it? Because C has to happen immediately that B is finished. So let's put C straight in with person 2. C is 20 minutes, so that's there. She's not been required to do E. E is going to have to be done by somebody. So shall we put E in next? Let's put E in with that same person. Would that work? Or does it have to be somebody else? No, I think we can do that with her. Let's have E. Friend 2 can do E. How many is E? 3, 4, 5. That's 25. H has to be done next, and H has to start at that point. And Molly is doing H, so I'm going to put H in there. Okay, so that has got my critical path sorted. All I need to do now is to fit the other activities in around that. Let's have A starting as early as it possibly can. So let's put A, which was non-critical, in straight after B. Molly had to do that, remember. Molly also has to do F. Now F just has to take place at this point here. What else are we missing? A, B, C. We've not put D in yet. So D, depends upon C. We could put D there. That would work, wouldn't it? So D lasts for 3. We also have G having to happen sometime around here, so let's put G. Molly will have to do that. And Molly has to do F, so let's put F in that space there. Is that all of them? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Yes, we've got one of them. It's not a unique solution, but it's there aren't many ways yet to do it. We could have swapped D and G around there, or we could have had E with friend 2, but that's it. Notice that requirement that Molly has to do A, B, F and H was quite important in that. And notice also that in order to get this done in the critical time, I know it's not how the alphabet works, but you had to start with B, because B was critical, so it had to be the first thing that happened. And a few people missed that, and that caused a delay to the whole project. Right, we're on the final part of the question, which says, draw up a schedule to show how Molly and... I can't read that. Draw up a schedule to show how Molly and just one friend can complete the project in just 5 minutes more than the minimum project completion time from part 3. Alright, we're still, notice this instruction here hasn't changed. So Molly still has to do activities A, B, F and H. Okay, that's, we haven't withdrawn that condition. So, is it possible for us to move some of these things around and get it done so that we only have a slight delay on the whole thing? How are we going to set this up? I think actually, if it's only going to be a 5-minute delay, H has to happen at the end. So I am going to start by putting H in there 5 minutes later, because that's whatever else happens, that's going to need to happen at the very end of it. If I don't have B as the first activity, then that's going to be a problem, isn't it? So I need my table again. I'm only allowed to feed in a 5-minute display. I keep saying display. Delay at some point. And I've pushed H further back, so I need to be thinking I've got to get there with only 5 minutes over. So what can we do that changes what's going on there? Well, there's not a lot we can do at the start, is there? Because everything depends upon C having completed. C is absolutely crucial. So let's fit those first few activities in the same way. Let's have A there and C. Okay, and at that point, that's about as good as it gets, isn't it? We can't do any more with that. Now we've got to fit the rest of the things in. Molly still has to do F in order to meet our requirement. What could we do? Well, look, if we have Molly doing E at this point, and push F till after that, that would fit, wouldn't it? That's 5. Lots of 5 minutes for E, and then we can fit F in there. Now F needed D to have happened before it, so let's put D at that point, and G was also at that point, and there, that's finished in time for H to start, and we've done it. And you see how you think that through. I think that is a unique solution at this point. I don't think there's any other way of doing it other than that. Do you see how I started by putting H in at the end? Because H relies on everything else being completed. If the whole activity is going to be 5 minutes longer, the whole project, then H had to have started 5 minutes longer. So that's quite good, because that kind of ties up how the end of it is going to finish. I think that's a crucial thing to do. There we go. That was quite long, wasn't it? That's maths.